Hi, it's Vincent here, the founder of the Property Marketing Academy, where I teach real estate agents and property owners how to market their properties more effectively so that you can achieve a maximum price out there in the marketplace and avoid underselling. I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but a lot of properties nowadays, they're out there in the market without a price on it. And I don't understand this. I don't know if you're as confused about this as I am, but especially from a consumer perspective, I just don't get it. You see so many places now where they've got this just listed, and oftentimes it's just listed and then it sits there as just listed for months and months and months and months, which it isn't just listed anymore. Then you see contact agent or expressions of interest or price on application. It's got to a point now where agents are coming up with all these different synonyms for something that basically says no price. I saw one the other day and it was property showcase, and another one which just blew me away, it was red alert. That's how the property was promoted. Here's your price, it's called red alert. Now, for heaven's sake, we've got to move to the next level with all this and understand around this, because it's just not working out there in the marketplace. If anything, I think it's actually damaging the price of some of the properties out there, and I think a lot of people are ending up selling for way less than what they should be, purely because agents are adopting this type of strategy. And I'll explain why. But one of the things I have done is I've done a fair bit of research in behind the scenes around this, and a lot of it started when back in Queensland, Queensland actually just recently decided to change their regulations. And they said that any property that goes to auction cannot have a price indication at all. So what happens in Queensland, if you see a property that goes up for auction and you go to the open home or you contact the agent and you say, can you give me an idea of price, the agent cannot say anything. They can't give you any indication about what sort of price range the property is going to sell in. And that, from a consumer point of view, is just going to frustrate people no end and cause all sorts of grief and turn people away. So we're starting to see a fair bit of this, like I said earlier, all these different terms being used for no price. Now, the other thing that I'm seeing that's happening out there is that agents are actually even going out there in the marketplace and they're being asked to do a market appraisal. For example, I went out to a property the other day and there were 4 agents invited in. And out of the 4 agents, there were myself, I gave them a price as to what I feel the place should sell for. I think one other agent did the same, but a couple of others basically said, oh, we can't give you a price, we just put it out there in the marketplace at no price and see what the market's going to pay. It just doesn't make sense to me. You've got to go out there and you've actually got to put a price on your agency agreement. So by law, the agent has to actually give an indication on price. So if you're at an appraisal, you've got to tell people what you think the place is going to actually sell for. The reason why a number of agents won't do that nowadays is that when you're out at a market appraisal, it's like a job interview, and if the agent says the wrong price, then sometimes another agent will say a higher price, and that's the agent that gets the job. So I'm not recommending that you go out there and just list with the agent that tells you the biggest price. I just think you've got to look at this from a different level of thinking and the way that the agents are actually presenting properties out there in the marketplace. And it's interesting when you look at this, and that's why I've put together this framework about why no price equals low price. There's a couple of agents I know of who were actually out there looking at buying property. I know one currently who's actually looking at buying a property, and these are agents, friends of mine, who are actually up in Queensland. So they're not local agents or anything, but it was interesting. They said, as a buyer, even though they've got access to all this information that we have as real estate agents, as a buyer, the most frustrating thing for them was looking at properties that don't have a price on it. And it made me think about what's happening out there and this whole consumer behaviour. You see, in the old days, you used to have the buyers that turn up to your office, you'd put them in the car and you'd drive them around and show them a few different homes. And if this particular property over here didn't have a price on it, well then you could say to them, look, I think this may be in your price range. They're in the car, you'll take them and show them. But nowadays with the internet, people have got the world at their fingertips and they make decisions based around whether they're going to go out and have a look at the property or they're not going to go out and have a look at the property, based around what they find out about your property and your home and all the features and the neighbourhood and all the information around it that they can access via the internet. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're engaging those buyers and not doing things that are actually pushing buyers away. And that's why I set up this framework around why no price equals low price. You see, what happens now is that by having no price on your property, you're actually setting up, this first part of the framework is your property's being basically screened from view. And in that, what I mean is that it's almost like you're putting up a screen to say, sorry, we're not going to reveal anything about price, and it's like this mystery bag sort of approach. Now, realestate.com.au have actually come out with some stats around this, and they said that 91% of users overlook properties without a price. And something like 31% of the users actually refine by price. So they say, well, we've got 700 to 750 to spend, so they'll actually search in that price criteria. So 31%. So nearly a third of the users on realestate.com.au will actually search via price. But that other factor, about 91% of users overlooking properties without a price, is massive. Because from a seller's perspective, you're in a situation where you want to attract as many buyers to your property as you possibly can. So by putting up a screen where people go through and they'll look at all the homes listed and they'll go, no price, too hard, too hard, too hard, too hard, too hard. Oh, there's one with a price. Okay, yeah, we'll go and have a look at that. And then, so they're going through what I call a deselection process of deciding which homes that they want to go and see. The other thing that happens is if they're in a position where they are slightly interested in your home, there is some interest there, but they don't know about the price, then they'll tend to maybe contact the agent. But then what happens is that you're actually asking people to then do something that they don't feel comfortable in doing. And that is, as a real estate agent, we're not really trusted. So people are in a position where they'll actually almost resent having to go through the process of trying to find out the price on your property, and then if it's outside of their price range, then they just get so frustrated and they go through this second phase that I call resented, where your property is being resented out there in the marketplace. I mean, what you want it to do is you want it to be presented to the marketplace in the best possible way you possibly can, and not building this level of resentment and frustration. And it even gets to a point where when you don't have a price on your property, you should try this yourself. Where you see a house that hasn't got a price on it, try ringing the real estate agent to see if you can get the price out of the agent. A lot of times you'll ring the agency, the receptionist says, oh, if you can just leave your details, because so-and-so is not here at the moment, we'll get them to give you a call back. And then you say, well, can't you just tell me the price? No, I'm not authorised to do that. And then you've got to jump through all these hoops to try to find out that information about the price of that home. And by the time you finally get to speak to the agent, then oftentimes, if you want to try to find out the price, the agent will then say, well, what do you think it's worth? As opposed to, well, we think it's going to sell in this sort of range. So it just doesn't make sense that we're putting it to a point where we're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you tell us what you think it's worth, rather than trying to get the maximum price out there in the marketplace for your client. It's getting to a point now where buyers are really they're building up this level of resentment, and it's not the way that you want to start the relationship with the buyer and the agent and the buyer and your property. So then the third part that happens as well with this not having a price on your property is that because people don't necessarily want to have to talk to the agent, what they'll do is they then go through this process that I call scrutiny, where we're now in a situation where we've got this whole information age now, and all this information is available, and you'll find that if someone is interested in your property and you don't have a price on it, then they'll go through and they'll do a lot of this scrutiny around. They'll go onto Google Earth, they'll go onto sites like RP Data and Price Finder and other different sites to get valuation reports, and because they're in a situation where they want to know that what they're paying for the place is justifiable. Because people make decisions emotionally, but they justify their decisions based on logic. So they need to have that sort of logical data to be able to help them to proceed through with what is an emotional decision when they're buying a home. So there's these three factors and reasons why having no price on your property will normally lead to selling for a low price. And this first one, this screened one, is just so underrated in relation to the industry, because what's happening is that so many people are making a decision to not have a look at your home purely because you don't have a price on it. And then what happens is that because you've got this barrier to entry, you're making it difficult for people to go through, and they're building up this resentment, and all of a sudden all these things are happening online that you don't even know about, that because you're not getting the person to come through and do a physical inspection on your home, all of a sudden you're in a position where the agent's saying, well, look, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to sell it for the price that you had in mind, so we may have to adjust that expectation, but yet maybe it's purely and simply because you don't have a price on your property. So very, very important to think through this and look at this from a buyer behaviour point of view. The other thing that is really important to look at is that there's this huge mistake out there that a lot of agents use this no price strategy based around, is that they think that there's no ceiling. When you put no price on the property, there's no ceiling to how much people could pay for it. Now, that's okay if you're an agent that wants to go out there and blue sky all of your clients and say, you know, the man from Mars may land on the planet tomorrow and decide to buy the property. But you'll find that nowadays, as I said, in this information age, a lot of people are in a situation where they're very, very well educated to the marketplace, and they're not going to pay absolutely ridiculously over the mark dollars for a property based on this no ceiling myth. The other thing with this no ceiling is that you can sell property for more than what it's on the market for. In fact, we've already done it. We've sold a number of places for in excess of their asking price, and recently we sold a place that was above the top of the range on the buyer's price range that we actually had featured. So we ended up selling it for $30,000 more than what that top of the range price was. So it is possible to sell a property above the actual price that you represented out there in the marketplace. So that no ceiling thing is just complete rubbish. It's all about generating as much interest in the home as you possibly can, and then creating a competitive bidding environment. But you cannot create a competitive bidding environment if you're in a situation where 91% of the users are actually overlooking the properties, as per those realestate.com.au stats. So in finishing up, what I'd look at doing, the first thing I would look at doing is put yourself in the buyer's shoes. Go online, have a look at some of the properties, and you'll see for yourself that there are so many homes that have got no price on them, and you do just discount them. You just, sorry, I'll just have to have a look at the ones that are in my price range. And if you want to, you could even go out there and make phone calls to some of these agents that don't have the prices on the homes, and just find out what they actually say about what is the price for the home. And you'll find that a lot of it nowadays is all these tricks and different dialogues just to try to get you to, I don't know what, just to be in a situation where you're going to pay a ridiculous price for a place. I don't think so. A lot of people will pay a really good price for a home when they fall in love with it, but you've got to get them to the home in the first place to really be in a situation where you can get them to pay a premium. So that's today's session. As you can see, I just think that this is the wrong direction that our industry is heading, and what I'm doing is I'm actually going to put together in possibly my next video about how buyers can actually find out what the price of a property is via the internet without actually having to contact the agent. So if you're tuning into these videos, make sure to tune in on that one, because it'll really help you when you are actually searching for property online. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next video. We'll see you then. Bye.